Okay, so you know how there are some jobs you wish you could just turn back time and start over and do it the way you've learned you should have done it? Well, this is one of those jobs. This cabinet, they wanted to keep part of it and change part of it. The drawers down below, I'll show you a picture. There were 4 drawers, and I didn't show it, but they're all on just regular wood slides, so they don't work that good. And they wanted to increase the space, so I was going to just modify it in the field and add 3 drawers and pull out the 4 and make it into 3, and then and leave the upper part. Well, when I started to get into it, I was doing the drafting on the drawers themselves. You see this picture here, it's ridiculous. The amount of things that I would have to do was just silly. So I decided, okay, well, I'll just build another cabinet and cut out the lower part and stick in the new cabinet. And that's what I did. But I won't do it again because there's carpet there, and to put the cabinet into that opening, I had to go past the carpet. It just fit. It just barely made it. It was a royal pain to draft, and it was pretty much of a pain to install. There was even electrical that they had to handle inside that I found out later. I had to cut the cabinet at an exact point to fit the new one, and it worked, and you can see how I did it in this video. But I won't do it that way again. I'll rip out the entire floor to ceiling cabinet and just put all new. It's so much easier and faster, and you'll actually end up spending less time, meaning less money. And yeah, so don't go down this road, or if you watch this video, I hope you do, you'll see what can be done. At least it shows you what can be done. And that's about it. I hope it's entertaining. I show you how to retrofit a cabinet in this situation, leaving one of the pieces loose. Just how to install deep drawers using, I use Salici slides, which came in like a 24-inch. So I show how to do those and how they adjust. And this is a face frame cabinet. I do a lot of frameless, but I also do face frame. And it's an overlay, so I show how to put the drawers in and a lot of other details. I don't know, maybe you'll find it entertaining, and maybe you'll have suggestions. So here you go. I hope this introduction isn't too long. Let's get to the video. Okay, so here I am cutting the parts for this particular job. For this, I'm not going to really show in detail how to use a table saw or anything like that, just the fact that I used my table saw and cut the 2 sides you see there, and then the bottom, and then I cut the back, and 2 stretchers for the top of the cabinet. Okay, so now I've cut the parts. These are the carcass parts. Next is to cut the parts for the frame. These are my pieces. And I have this really nice piece of poplar. See how it's purple? It's really cool. I hated to have to use it. I don't know about you, but I love this stuff. Look at that. Tell me that's not nice. What a shame. Gonna paint it. Okay, so now I cut these on the saw and I ran them through the planer. These are the only pieces I need for this particular cabinet. So these are the frame parts that I just cut to length. And 2 of the side pieces, the bottom, and the top rail. Okay, so this is that hallway cabinet, which is 2 sides, a bottom, and some stretchers on the top. And anyways, I'll just build away. It's just a simple box. It's deeper than usual at 25 3/4 total. I'm gonna put a 1/2 inch back on there. A left side, right side, bottom, and the top part are these. This is cross section showing the stretchers. Okay, so this is the face frame. So this has a 6 7/8 to the bottom. So I'm going to cut a piece of material 6 7/8 to help locate that piece as I nail and screw it on. So these are used to help hold it at the right spot and secure the shelf. Make sure that's flush there. and there. And you might need to do some measuring real quick. Right there, 7 1/4. Just make a couple marks. 7 1/4. 7 1/4. I only need 1 or 2 nails. Apply a couple of screws. And then what I call stretchers. So now it's just a matter of flipping it over and putting on the back. And the back will square up the cabinet. So I personally use 1.25" or 1.5" crown staples for putting the back on. So I want to show something, just so to be in all fairness, there is a little tiny lip here, and there isn't, it's flush here, but sometimes perfection is not obtainable, but I don't know what happened. Either the box is out of square or this is out of square, but it's so little that it really doesn't matter for this cabinet. Being a face frame, the frame will overhang this. So I'm gonna put some screws on and be done. And then also, the bit that I like, the one that I'm using here, is this one. And I believe, I'll put down the size. I think this is the 7/64, so I'm not positive, but it's not the pointed one. This is a pointed one. The reason I don't like this tapered one is it tends to follow the wood grain. So if I put it in, it doesn't go straight. It will almost bend and start following the grain. So that's the reason I don't like it. I much prefer this. I make sure it goes in straight. And this is more of a recent kind of thought process from me. And I put the screws about maybe 8 inches apart, 6 to 8, something like that. On a base cabinet, it's not as important as on an upper. So those are my thoughts. You can use one of these, an impact driver, or you can use this, which is a drywall screw gun, but it goes really fast. I'll show you. See, it seats at a certain distance down, and it's meant for drywall, but when I countersink, because drywall, you don't need a countersink, but so in wood, I will countersink on my backs, of course, because these screws need countersinking. And then I go stab it all the way in, and I don't pull straight up because sometimes this bit gets caught in there, right? And also, I do this, and then go around my cabinet. Okay, so really fast that way. I kind of prefer it, but this thing's a little heavier maybe. Something I like about it. It shouldn't make that sound. It should make that sound, like grinding away at the screw. Oh, what? I'm missing one. Oh, like right here. Okay, that's it. Like that. End of story. That cabinet now just needs the face frame put on it. So we'll flip it over one more time. So one other point I want to make about this cabinet is that the frame on it is basically a frame with a big bottom rail. And I don't know if you can see it, but that's a 2-inch top rail, 2.5-inch side rails. But this one we're going to leave loose because in the field it's wall to wall, and it's going to be hard to get this I can't get the cabinet in unless I leave one of these stiles off. This face frame is upside down because this is the part that's going to be screwed together, this screwed together, and then I'll flip it and the right side is going to be left loose for in the field.
I don't do a lot of pocket hole screws. So I have this. I've been thinking about getting one of the more expensive ones that uses a router. But for now, we'll stick with this one. It does a fine job. So I figure I'm going to put about 4 screws in this one. So we'll put those 2 there. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's that one. And then this one. I just use the one with 2 holes when it's narrow like this. Okay. Pretty simple. Whoops. A little bit of wood glue. Clamp it down. It needs to be more this way. I'm not sure about this clamp. We'll see. There we go. That's good. 1.5 inch. These screws, I think they're called high-lows. They got threads that are, you see the deep ones and shallow ones. Plus it's got that type 17 point. And they always make these square drive. And I don't know if it's general knowledge, but you need these long, the long shafted square drive tip in order to do a pocket screw because you're going at such an angle. Probably seen that in 100 other videos, but wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say something. Okay. So right there, we'll throw 1 clamp on there. There we go. Let's go back to this one. Beautiful. So I'm going to check the frame for fit. It should be all good. This should be flush here. It's flush here. I'm going to be cutting some of this off in the field, and this will attach in the field, this right side. You know what? Now I realize I have no support underneath here. So I need to add something right here, which is easy to do because I made those filler strips. These right here. Got the piece. I'll just nail that on. No problem. Because this is pre-finished plywood. And this is melamine glue. I think they also call it Rue glue. There we go. Now I can put this back on. And that has support. It'll be flush on the inside here. Flush with the bottom. And then I'll just put that there. So let me put some glue on there. So glue goes across here. Okay. Yep, sometimes even I need a ladder. That's way off. There we go. Flush on the bottom. So this style ended up a little thicker than this. I'm not even sure how that happened because I buy the material all the same thickness, but I did grab some random pieces. So I'm just gonna belt sand, kind of taper it in. It's paint grade and it should be fine. But it's recommended you check your thicknesses before you make your face frame, just in case you need to plane one of them. Now I gotta kind of plane it using a belt sander. This 4x24 belt sander is, to me, legions above a 3x21 because it stays really flat and does wide surfaces easily. I've done entire countertops with this instead of a router, like those router sleds people use. I use this, using just this belt sander. It's working, but if I had a better sandpaper, it would go much faster. There we go. Beautiful. There we go. The belt sander is a little bit rough, so I'll touch it up with this. Okay, now it's just a matter of filling the little holes. This is paint grade, so I'm just gonna fill these and yeah. Loose. Okay, now I'm just going to put wood fill in those little holes. Probably way too much. It doesn't matter the color when it's paint grade. I know that there's base molding going to cover anything down low. That's it. I'm using Famo wood filler. And by the way, they put the lid on upside down. That's actually your bottom. This is your bottom. That's why they ride it upside down like that. And I added these skids to the bottom, so when I move it around my shop, it's a little bit protected. Okay.
So I'm using Salici slides for 3 of the drawers that are 24 inch. And actually they're like 23 and 5/8 for some reason. But you can see the big difference between the grass and the clips for the Salici. This one on the left is the grass that I'm using for most of the drawers. And then this one is the one for the 24-inch Salici. It's all plastic. This one has cast metal parts. And this one does have one more adjustment. Okay, so just make sure it's in the corner properly. Okay, that works good. Okay, for me that works best. And the other one, the same deal. But in reality, this needs to go a little bit this way to keep this gap the same on the whole thing. So I'm going to keep that space consistent at the back here to determine where that hole goes. You could read the literature, but this is like where the hole goes. Okay, that would be the center of it. And what I've been using is a 5/16 drill bit. Whoops, I went through the drawer, which was a big mistake. Okay, so now I got to fix the drawer inside. I got to plug that hole. I was about to say don't go through. I should have put a piece of tape on here. My bad. Oh God. You can see that goes in the hole. Now, there is something going on that's all the way forward, and this is not all the way in there. The literature said that this wasn't to be 24 inches, it was to be 23 and I believe 5/8. Let me check. That's what it is. But I would have made it 23 3/4 because this can go in a little bit more for sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this side now. So this time I'll put a piece of tape on there to prevent myself from going through. And we'll check it with the slide. And that's good. It's right in there, okay? There's that hole I need to plug. Oh God. And now we'll do the other drawer. And really, you don't even need to mark it. Just by poking that in there, it stabs it where you want it to be. You can even use the hammer, kind of mark it right there with a dent to drill that hole. There you go. Same with the other side. Okay, do the same thing. Drill that hole. There we go. So here I just put the drawer fronts on top of the cabinet. It's facing like that, and marked where the drawer fronts are by putting those 1/8 inch sticks in between, because this is a 1/2 inch overlay over the frame in this case. So, and then I'll figure out the distance up inside to make my sticks to hold the slides up. I cut these pieces, and this is how I'm going to mount the slide on there a certain distance back. And also I want to show first how the clips work on this. So let's do that first. Okay, so the slide comes in and it catches in there, right? So that is how it's held together in there. And then, okay, so this
actually moves the slide this way and this way. So left and right, that'll move the drawer front. You'll see this, you'll probably just barely see it move. It moves, right now it's moving that way as I'm pushing it back, and it'll come back when it goes that way. So that might only be about 1/8 of an inch. And then this moves this entire piece of plastic here back and forth. So the slide, let me move this, you see that? How that's moving back now? So the drawer, that would push the drawer out. And then putting it the other way brings it in. Okay, so that's that adjustment there. And then this pushes the slide underneath, it raises it up. There we go. I don't know if you could see that. Okay, up and down. So down and then up. Left and right, back and forth, and up and down. So one way to figure out where to put the slide in your drawer box is to do this. Put it in there. Let's do this again. So that's fully seated. Okay. And then you check this distance here and measure that. And right now we're at 5/8. So to have this even further back on the frame of the cabinet, you're going to want to put that, let's say that's 5/8. I would go at least another 1/16 back with the slide so that the drawer front is behind the frame. This is not an inset. These doors are an overlay, so they're coming right to the front, the drawer box. Every slide is a little bit different, so make sure you check that. The other thing I want you to note on this slide is how this bumps down. Same here. So you want to make sure on these shims here that we're using that you rest those where the bumps are, because there seems to be a lot of bumps and it'd be harder to hit the non-bump area. There's this plastic sticking out. These bumps are where you want to rest those pieces on. So this is the bottom side of this, and I'll show it again when it's in the drawer box, in the cabinet. So I want this to be right on there, 11/16 back. Okay. Again, make sure you're under those bumps. And you can pull this out to get to those screws easier. You can put it in the slotted hole if you want. Okay. And then we put this over to the other side. Now this side is loose because I'm going to be fitting it in the field, but it's here to help gauge things. So that's why that's there. So I'll put this here. Okay. And now we're ready for the one below that. What I should have done is check the first drawer box to make sure that it fits correctly. That's a little further back than I thought. It'll still work, but it doesn't need to be that far back. Try the next one. Yeah, I think they need to come out just a little bit. They're about 1/8 or so. I meant them to be a 1/16 back. That's why you always check your first one, because you can change from there, no problem. And then on the bottom, I just mount it directly on the bottom. And we'll go 5/8 this time from the face. And of course, same on the side. 5/8 back. And these are all 24-inch slides, by the way. I like it. Okay. There we go. 1/2 inch overlay with an 1/8 of an inch gap between. I decided the way to give them more space was to have no rails in between the drawers. So now that I'm putting the drawer fronts on, they're a 1/2 inch overlay. I just made some marks and I clamp it, and then I'm going to use the this pre-drill bit here, countersink bit. Okay, and then I already had pre-drilled some holes through there, and now I'm going to go into the maple. And of course the 1-inch screw. I love that sound. And then this side, 8x1 screw. And once that's done, just taking these off. And then typically I'll throw on the next drawer box. Okay, put in my 1/8 of an inch shims. First though, I will pre-drill a couple holes for the drawer front. You want to be near the top because to make sure you hit the rails. In this case, I do need a ladder. Matches my mark I already have on here, which is good. Want to make sure you're not screwing down into here. So this is close, but I think I'm good here. For mounting these screws, I definitely prefer an impact and pre-drilling the hole. It just seems to work really good that way. Gives a good bite. Okay. And then the next one. This one I had to go in a little farther, but I think that'll still be okay. Put them in the drawer there. And then just run it along and see where you're at, and we're looking really good. Taking the drawer front, putting it on those 1/8 inch shims, lining it up with the one below it. I think it makes it a little bit harder when this is further back. So definitely next time, just go closer to the front. Okay, now it's just a matter of adding more screws to all the drawers, which I don't really need to show. That'll work. Okay, so I got them mostly adjusted. I might raise this one up a little bit just to make those gaps more even. But what I did is I added the screws in the sides so that there's another one at the bottom of every one of these drawers, like that. So to adjust this one up a little bit, this slide has that little mechanism that raises it. And there we go. I don't know if you can see it, but I did it a little bit. I'll do a little bit on this side. Okay. Looks good.
Okay, so I hope you got some value out of that. You'll see here at the end here, I'm gonna show a picture of the cabinet before, and you'll see here before and then after. And it was a ton of work just to change it to 3 drawers from 4. The drawers didn't work that great in the first place, so these are much better slides. And another thing is the bottom rail was like really small and didn't match everything else in the house. So I made a very big rail. I'll show that. And then ran that molding across. So everything looked more integrated in the way it's supposed to. But once I took apart the cabinet itself, there was some electrical inside the wall that was weird. So they patched that up. And the other thing was, in order to actually fit that cabinet in there, I had to get past that carpet, and I would not do it again. It just fit, and I clamped it in there. It all worked, and I predicted everything correct, but it was way more work than it needs to be, because to do all that drafting and to figure it out and how to make it line up and all that stuff, it's just easier to start from scratch. I would have taken in the future, if I see something like that, I'm not gonna try and salvage the upper part. The whole thing goes, and it'll be that much easier to just do it that way, and seriously, it would be less work. Even though you're building an entire cabinet, I might still build it in 2 sections, because that's a floor to ceiling and it's kind of narrow in the hallway and all that, and probably leave one of the verticals loose the same way I did on the base cabinet. But I hope that you got value out of the actual video, that you got value on how to build the cabinet or how you might make that work wall to wall like that in a small area, and everything else, just how I build my cabinets. And if that was of value to you, just go ahead and if you want to see something like that, or you want to see more cabinet stuff, just hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.